Talk about the leader on the field for Ohio State over the last couple of years. It's that young man, Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields has always been considered a dual threat guy, but certainly in this pro day, the number that everybody was focused on is 40 because we expected him to blow the field away in the 4.4s, perhaps maybe even in the high 4.3s. And here was the 40 that Justin Fields, Howard, ran just a few moments ago.
I really like what he was able to do. I thought he stumbled in some of them right there. So I think he can go faster. This is an outstanding athlete, and he's going to be an outstanding quarterback in the National Football League. But this, running the 40, is something that is going to allow him to separate himself from some of the other guys that are out there.
Now, unofficially, a few scouts had that 40 timed at 4.44. At least one scout had it just a bit quicker at 4.43. Now, if that is the actual number, no quarterback, at least at the NFL Combine, has ran quicker than that since Robert Griffin in 2012 ran a blazing speed. But I think that's exactly what Fields needed to show was his top end that we've seen every Saturday with Ohio State.
Yeah, dynamic quarterback. I think he's going to continue to impress the rest of the day now when he has to move on to some of his agility drills. And also, when he has the opportunity to throw the football around, I think that's where he's really going to be able to take that next step. I think he's probably the number 3 quarterback in this upcoming draft.
We shall see, projected anywhere from the 3rd pick off the board to perhaps 15 or 16. This could be the first year in quite some time that we've had 3 quarterbacks taken with the first 3 picks. I also thought it was interesting, Howard, to hear Ryan Day talk about Justin Fields just having to be himself, and that there are going to be NFL teams that are going to like the way the ball comes out of his hand, his release point. There are going to be NFL teams that want it at a different spot, and I think that's something that the casual fan sometimes forgets. He may simply not fit into what a quarterback coach or a head coach wants at one particular organization, but there may be somebody drafting even ahead of him 2 or 3 slots, and those scouts, those GMs, and that head coach like the way that he throws the ball.
Yeah, the upside to Justin is, to me, what separates him from some of the other quarterbacks that are out there. I know that Trevor Lawrence is, in many regards, going to be the first pick in the draft. But then when you drop down below that and you think about the upside that Justin has, to me, the sky is the limit. So if you can put him into a great situation where you have a great head coach, offensive coordinator, he is going to really thrive in that area. You heard Coach Day talk about just how fast he is when he gets going. He's also a guy, when you look at his build from the waist down, it's important.
Yep.
We talk about guys that have a large derriere that play this game. That's him. Thighs, legs, calves. He's a guy that's not going to be brought down very easily at the next level, and those are also things that are going to be very important to what he can bring to that next team.
First of all, I didn't know you spoke French, so I'm remarkably impressed. But when you look at those measurables and you see the fact that after that 4.4, low 4.4 40, and you consider the fact that Fields is 6'3", he's about 227 right now and could easily get up into the 230s if a team wanted him to be there. As long as he shows what he needs to show throwing the ball later in that individual workout, when you combine that 40 with Ryan Day described it as his body of work and his ability to not just run past people, Howard, but to run over people. And I know a lot of NFL teams don't necessarily want their quarterback doing that, but the game is evolving at the pro level to become more of the college game each and every year.
Right, so if you have a rare quarterback coming up that has rare abilities to extend plays with his legs and be able to use his legs to defeat defenses, you want that guy. There are a lot of guys in this draft that are more pocket guys, and yes, they're athletic, but they're not anywhere near the athleticism that Justin Fields possesses, and I think that's what can catapult him if he goes out and continues to throw the ball well. Does he have some mechanical things he has to continue to work on? Yeah, he does, but that's part of this process. That's where a great situation for him would be able to go in and not necessarily be the day one starter. I know everybody wants to start day one, but you can sit for a year and then be able to take over and learn and really find out where you can get better in your game when you're a pro.
Yeah, and I know Rob Rang has Trey Lance projected as the number 3 pick overall right now. That's San Francisco, but you just described the situation that would be exactly what Justin Fields will be walking into,
Kyle Shanahan.
into San Francisco, and I happen to think that that's a possibility for this young man. The individual workout of Justin Fields coming up next. We are closing in on the moment that most have been waiting for from Ohio State Pro Day as we get set for the individual workout of quarterback Justin Fields, projected as a first-round pick. Rick Pizzo, Howard Griffith from our studio here in Chicago. Joshua Perry is on the field level watching Justin Fields in Columbus. Howard, what exactly are the scouts and GMs right now going to be watching for with Justin Fields? What specific throws do they want to see? And where can he really impress those in attendance?
I think some of those intermediate throws, the timing, and understand that a lot of the timing is going to be a little off because you haven't been necessarily working out with this group of receivers for the last 6 to 8 weeks. So you may have some misses there, but I expect him to be very confident. You talk about being able to throw in the framework of his body where his legs are not, where he's not overstriding or understriding. He's really able to show people his ability to move around, ball handling, throwing on the go. These are all things that I expect him to do an outstanding job. Most of the times, these throws have already been scripted for a couple of weeks, so he knows exactly where he wants to go and what routes are going to be coming up, so I expect him to do really well here.
You know, it's interesting, Howard, because after his first year in Columbus, I think the criticism was, how well does he throw the deep ball? Justin Fields throws a remarkably accurate deep ball. I think some of his issues came when holding the ball a little too long and then trying to force it over the middle. Obviously, holding the ball is not an issue here, as Ryan Day described it. He's throwing against air. There's no coverage. There's no one trying to knock Justin Fields down with the ball in his hand. But I think you're right. I think those intermediate throws, and they describe them at the NFL level, right, as being able to throw over the linebacker who's sitting back in coverage and being able to throw underneath that safety or that cheating corner, because sometimes we have, if there's a criticism you could levy against Justin Fields, seen him when he needs to put touch on a ball, throw it too hard, and when he needs to throw it too hard, sometimes put a little too much touch.
Or you also talk about throwing guys open, so being able to anticipate where the ball is going to be, throwing it before the receiver comes out of the break and just leading him to where he's going to be. You talk about different zone reads, some things that we won't see necessarily in this individual workout. These are all throws that they're going to be very interested in. But at the end of the day, he's going to look great here, but you still have to rely upon the tape that he's put out there. And there's some questions that are out there, but I think you can also explain them away when you sit down and have a conversation with him. And as a player or a coach, when you're watching the film, as he takes you through why he made the decisions he made, that'll help answer some of those questions.
So I'm curious then, obviously the tape is much more important because you are throwing against coverage, because you are getting rushed. How much does this affect, how much can it affect, positively or negatively, kind of the preconceived notion or the scouting that teams have already done on Justin Fields? Yes, they're being able to see him in person here. They will only see him on tape or watching on TV in the past. But aren't you generally seeing the same things?
You're seeing a lot of the same things, but again, it's just another opportunity to evaluate. And you're seeing it a little bit different because there's greater pressure in this scenario right here because he's looking around. He understands that the coaches and GMs are there and they're hanging on his every throw. So how does he handle that pressure? And that's why you heard Coach Day said he just has to be himself. If he can go out and it's just another day at the park, he's going to excel at a day like today.
20-2 as the Ohio State starter. Obviously, I think his draft stock went up a ton after that semifinal performance against Clemson in this past year's CFP. The fact that he only spent 2 years as the starter at Ohio State, that should not in any way affect what an NFL team sees when you consider the fact that there are not a lot of guys right now that are spending more time than that, starting more than 22 games, not at this level. Those are the days of the past.
They are. And you have a guy that has as much talent as he had, obviously starting out at Georgia, had some adversity there, fought through that, came to Ohio State, became the starting quarterback immediately. One of the things that really stood out was just his ability to lead from day one. And that's one of the things he wanted to be able to go out and do, and that Coach Day needed to force him to be able to do. Because he was playing with these great athletes, you still have to rise and become that alpha dog at the quarterback position. He was able to do that. We talk about him holding on to the football too long. Some of that is a part of he believes so much in these great receiving.
It's his competitiveness, too.
And you want to be able to go out there and make all the throws. But that's part of growing, and I think that's why if he can get into a system where he can continue to develop, maybe spend a year or half the season really developing, that's going to be a great scenario for him because he's shown that he has growth. He's shown growth from year 1 to year 2, and that's what you want to see from your quarterback, particularly when you talk about a guy that's probably going to go in the top 4 or 5 picks. He's got to be the franchise guy, understand that he can be cool and calm under pressure, and he's shown that the entire 2 years that he's been at Ohio State.
Yeah, and so much leadership. Ryan Day has talked about his growth as a leader over the past couple of years, not just on the field, but remember off the field, he led that movement, we want to play this year. He did it in the right way. I think those are things that in interviews and conversations with NFL scouts and GMs certainly going to reflect positively on Justin Fields. Let's get the field level perspective of what Joshua Perry is seeing from the Ohio State quarterback at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Joshua, first impressions?
Well, first off, you guys brought up a couple of concerns with Justin coming into today just on his performance as a quarterback, and I'll definitely say that he's answered some of those questions already in the interview process in terms of holding on to the ball. You talk to some people, and it could be easily explained away just by the fact that he feels like his guys are always going to be open, so he holds on to the ball until they can get open, something he won't be able to do in the NFL, but easily explained. The other thing you talk about with Justin Fields is that ability to fit the ball into the window. And as you get into the NFL, those hashes become a little bit closer. Some of those wide side throws get a little bit wider. He's shown really good velocity on the football thus far in this workout, and it's been extremely coordinated. You can see the different scripted routes that are up there. You can see the ball being moved from the middle of the field to the different imaginary hashes that it would be on. You can see some of the play action looks. It's a well done, well orchestrated workout thus far.
Now, Joshua, Ryan Day talked to you about the fact that scouts and GMs are going to be looking to see how the ball comes out of his hand. From the field level today, how would you describe what the ball looks like coming out of Justin Fields' hand?
He looks like an old pro right now. I mean, he just looks really comfortable. It's coming out with a little bit of velocity. It's coming out with some confidence as well. And I think that's the biggest thing about such a controlled environment where everything is scripted up is he's able to come out here and showcase what he can do at his best. So really exciting work thus far. I think it's a great workout and get to throw to some guys he's familiar with too. I know that was another concern that you guys brought up, but he's got some of his former teammates out here, some guys that are still currently on the roster to throw the football to, and it's really making him look good right now.
You know, Joshua, we're all focused on the physical, and we understand why. We want to see Justin Fields run the 40, want to see him throw the football. But I'm also paying a little bit of attention to the way that he's handling himself right now. He knows he is the center of attention. He slipped on that second 40 run, didn't seem overly frustrated, knew he had done a really good job with the first 40. And even here, he seems like he's very confident without being overly concerned about what's happening around him. How much do you think the way he's carrying himself right now, his attitude through this event, is resonating with the scouts and the GMs on hand?
No, I think it's very astute of you to be aware of his demeanor right now because that's what everybody's looking at. When you're the quarterback, the team goes as you go. And so the way that he looks right now is definitely important to the way that teams are going to perceive him. On that first 40 he ran, he kind of jumped out the blocks a little bit early. He had a smile on his face as he was going back to the starting line. The second one, like you said, he slipped up, but he didn't look overly frustrated. And then you even watched the way that he was interacting with his teammates. You watched the way that he was warming up and going through his progressions to prepare for this part of his workout. It shows a lot of maturity.
Yeah, good stuff from Joshua Perry at field level as we continue to watch Justin Fields' individual workout. Howard, I am really blown away by his attitude, not just here, but the way that he handled this past season, the way that he handled the transfer. You can go back a couple of years ago, there was some criticism as to whether Justin Fields should have been allowed to play immediately and granted that hardship waiver by the NCAA. He answered questions about it through our dealings with him over the past 2 years. He has been nothing but honest, candid. He's an easy guy to talk to. And he's a guy, there are certain players that you talk to over the course of our careers, and they have it without having to hammer it down that they have it. You understand what I'm saying by
Absolutely.
that? That you have that kind of leadership quality without trying to force it on people. And obviously, there's no position where that is more important than an NFL quarterback.
And think about it from this perspective as well. When you talk about forcing his leadership on others, talk about walking into a new environment, right? You talk about coming into an environment where Dwayne Haskins had just put up some huge numbers. So he needed to come in and prove himself, but he didn't need to come in and beat his chest and tell you guys how great I am. He needed to go out on the field and prove that. So as he continued to progress through that spring, that started to show. And it's just a maturation process for the elite quarterbacks to come into a new situation. He did what he needed to do. His teammates really loved him and really wanted to go out and play hard for him. And this is what you see. And you talk about being in a situation that is so scripted, right? He knows the throws he's had to make. He's known for weeks. This is what I'm going to do. He's thrown this already. He's already gone
this
through
entire script he's done, right?
He's been through this script already, maybe to different players, but he's been through the script, so he understands it, so he's confident. So when he's missed some maybe early in his preparation for this, he was fine with it because he knew he was going to be able to come back and have another opportunity. And you guys talked about just how poised he is. He looks great right now. You don't see him getting too high. You don't see him getting too low. That was a great observation. When you talk about the stumble, yeah, okay, I stumbled.
Shake it off.
Shake it off and come back. But I truly believe, you talk about this 4.4, he can go lower than that. There's no doubt about it. He's such an outstanding athlete, but now is an opportunity for him to prove why I'm an outstanding quarterback that has athletic ability, which, again, go back to this, Rick, can separate him and make him truly a special player in the right system in the National Football League.
As I've watched his individual workout here, I really like how it is being mixed up as well, and I'm sure this is scripted on purpose to also grab the attention of the scouts and the GMs. He goes from throwing a deep out, one of the toughest patterns to throw in the entire NFL, to throwing a little 5-yard cross pattern to Trey Sermon as if he were coming out of the backfield, and they're clearly trying to show those in attendance that he doesn't get too pumped up after having to make the big throw because you know very well that you may have to check it down on the next down.
And right now we're starting to see some of the footwork drills that they're going to be asking him to do at the pro level, that you're going to have to put your body in position to elude tacklers. Sometimes it's going to happen where they're going to be in your face. It's not going to be, he has to step up in the pocket, but what is he doing? He's stepping up, drifting to the left, having to throw back to the right. We've seen him have to do that a couple of times. He missed that one, but we've seen him make some great throws of throwing across the body or away from the direction that he's going, and that really shows you the arm strength that he has.
Are there generally more questions about footwork with quarterbacks like Fields or guys who understand that they have the ability, if something's not open, if they don't feel comfortable, to take off? Because those are two very different pieces of footwork, to put your foot in the ground and head down the field as opposed to stay in that pocket and make the throw that's available.
Yeah, no question about it. Most of the time when you think about the quarterback, it all starts right between the ears with the mind. But then when you talk about playing the position, the fundamentals of playing the position start at the feet. You have to be able to get your body in position, to get your hips in position to throw the ball. You can't do it all if your feet aren't right. So you'll hear people talk about his foundation is not exactly what you want it to be. See him doing a good job here, stepping up. Is not overstriding, and that's what happens sometimes with quarterbacks. When they overstride, the ball goes high. You don't want to be able to do that. You want to keep your feet inside that framework and be able to step in and deliver that, put that velocity on the football that you need to show at this level.
And I think that last sideline throw, Howard, was really important because on the previous throw, they had shown some pseudo pressure. He had gone to the left and made a bad throw to the right. So you go right back on the very next attempt and you have to throw the sideline pass and you have to throw it a little bit high and to the outside to keep it away from the imaginary corner. And on the very next throw, Fields shows great footwork and delivers again, showing the scouts and GMs, I understand I'm not going to complete every ball, but I cannot let one bad pass turn into more than that one pass.
Right, no question. Again, having to step up in the pocket, be able to find a tight end over the outside. It's also being able to step back the pass just before that, drop back in the pocket, immediately came to the backside route. So what he was trying to show there, front side is covered. I know it's working on the backside, able to deliver the ball with some velocity. Again, stepping away from the pressure that's coming at his face just to buy himself some more time to deliver the football.
So are these scripted so that NFL scouts and GMs would understand, listen, in this sequence, these may be throws that we have to make. We're going to show you that Justin Fields in this sequence can make those very throws.
Yeah, it's no question. Justin knows everything. His representatives know every question that the NFL scouts and general managers have for him and what they want to see. And that's what you want to go through as you talk about scripting a pass play. Here, you don't have to do it every time. It's just a good job of just dropping back and throwing the slant there. So, but you're going to want to put your quarterback or the quarterback in a position to show some of the things that you may have questions about. And that's what it comes down to, trying to address and answer as many questions as you possibly can. And remember, this is one workout. Normally, when you go through this, there are two workouts because you have a chance that if you elect to throw at a combine, you're throwing there. Or you will come back at your home field and you throw. So normally these quarterbacks have a couple of opportunities to throw. It's just going to be one for Justin unless he does some private workouts for teams that they have other questions. But he's answering a lot of them. Joshua talked about it earlier. There's a buzz about, why he is the player that he is, and I think he's going to be so coveted as you start to look at where these quarterbacks start to fall after you talk about Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville.
Yeah, a little bit of a hydration break. This is a good duration for this workout, and perhaps, Howard, because Fields and the staff understand that there is no combine. You want to show everything you can right now on Pro Day. Joshua Perry is on the field, and as Justin Fields continues his workout, Joshua, what's standing out to you?
Well, really, talking to some of the scouts down here, one thing they do appreciate is the composition of this workout. It's the full complement of positions out there. You've got tight ends, you've got running backs, you've got wide receivers, slots, and outside receivers. So you can see the full complement of routes. So you can watch Justin throw to each one of those body types. But the one thing that really stood out, there was a comeback on the sideline. Chris Olave was running the route, and it wowed some of the scouts down here, just the velocity of the ball, but the timing of the route, too, to deliver it on time. One of the scouts said to me, that is an NFL throw.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Justin Fields is trying to show right now. And a great point, Joshua, that you're actually throwing the small passes with the running back coming out of the backfield to Trey Sermon. You're throwing some of those middle hash passes to tight ends. You're throwing the outside passes to guys like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And obviously, there's a lot of comfort right there. But Joshua, I would say that if scouts are saying that's an NFL throw, I don't think they really care who Justin Fields is throwing to. They're more focused on that ball, where it leaves his hand and where it ends up in the wide receiver's hands.
That's exactly right. It was the timing of the route, first off, just to be able to deliver the ball as the receiver was coming out of his break. But second off, the velocity to get it there the way that he did. And that was, again, one of the criticisms that I had heard from some people leading up to this workout is, does he have that elite velocity to deliver the ball fast to the wide receiver? And he's showing it off today.
See, Howard, that surprises me a little bit because in watching Justin Fields as much as we've watched him, velocity to me has never been an issue with Justin Fields. I think that's something of a misconception that because he can run the football and because sometimes the touch isn't perfect, that he also can't spin it. Yeah. When this young man decides he wants to put it in there at 1,000,000 miles an hour, he can do exactly that.
And he's been doing it for a long time. I had the opportunity to watch him before he became a big-time college player when he was on the high school circuit in some of the 7-on-7s, and he's a guy that's had an arm for a long time. It's just about being able to understand what he needs to do and when you need to have the velocity and when you don't. When we go back and take a look at some of the plays that he made, just look at the confidence in the pocket as he stands tall because he knows where the pressure is. He feels he's going to have time. Again, does an outstanding job of delivering the football. That's a timing route. Knows the tight end's wide open. Now you see him elude the rush. Where the quarterbacks hate pressure, right in their face. But you saw him able to spin out of that and turn that into a touchdown using his legs. This you just saw in that little package there was an opportunity for them to really get an opportunity of to see what Justin brings to the table. We're going to continue to see that. I think it's also important. We talked about Trey having an opportunity to run some routes as well. That's for the scouts to get a chance to see him also catch the ball. You've got tight ends out there working. So along with trying to show Justin showing off his skill set, he's also putting his running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers in position to show what they're able to do as well.
Yeah, Trey Sermon was clocked in the 40 at about 4.58, probably a tad or a tick slower than he would have liked to have been. But remember, of course, the injury in that national title game, the dislocated collarbone. He's trying to show his stuff. Luke Farrell trying to show his stuff. But the focus here, Howard, is on Justin Fields.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You see him rolling out to the left. keeping his waist parallel to the line of scrimmage. And really, that was all upper body strength that you just saw with that throw. So there are going to be times in this workout where people are going to be wowed just by the arm strength. And I think that's important for a quarterback to show, because if we talk about these quarterbacks and you evaluate them all, everyone's going to have one of these wow moments in these workouts, and they want to be able to show that they have the arm strength to make all the throws. And I don't doubt for 1 minute that Justin's going to have a big throw come up in this workout.
Arm strength, he had almost no grounded plant there, and he threw that 50, 55 yards nearly on the fly. I don't think arm strength is going to be an issue, certainly not after this workout. And we've seen, Howard, and I'm comparing this to some of the other pro day workouts that I've seen, where you see a lot more of those intermediate routes, the 10 or 15-yard out patterns. We're seeing a lot of deep balls right now, and I think that, again, probably to send that message that if that's your criticism, if that's your concern, it should not be a concern at all.
Yeah, answering all the questions. And we keep going back to this, but it's about being able to check the boxes. You hear it, he hears it, the scouts hear it, we as analysts hear those questions, and everyone wants to see it. Is it sometimes overblown? Absolutely. But that's what the draft process is. You still have to be able to go out and check all the boxes.
And you hear some of the groans or the claps and the cheers coming from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Everybody's invested in this. Fields' teammates know how important this is. And the length of this workout, again, Howard, we're seeing stamina too, because usually you have a little bit more time in between these throws. Justin Fields making throw after throw without a lot of break here, continuing to show that arm strength and continuing to show that even without a full tank of oxygen, he can continue to deliver the ball where it needs to be.
Well, listen, these quarterbacks have been throwing like this for a long time.
I'm tired of watching him.
Yeah, a lot of years. And this is part of what they do. Listen, these guys, they want to throw the football, and their challenge is there. See him stepping up in the pocket, moving to the right, and throwing it across his body. Another example of the strength that he has in that arm. But again, it starts with the feet. You got to be able to put your feet in good position to be able to deliver those balls to make sure that you can get them where they need to be.
You see the communication happening right now between Fields and a couple of the receivers who are catching that ball. And you talk about the communication aspect of being a quarterback, and I felt like Justin Fields was elite in that regard this year. Ryan Day discussed his growth from his year one to year two as a starter. There was certainly some physical growth. There was some maturation in the throws that he could make. But I think probably more than anything else, the leadership and the communication with his teammates and understanding that the communication, even if it wasn't completely natural from him at the beginning, is a requirement for the position.
It is a requirement. And to be able to lead through difficult circumstances, the type of circumstances that our student athletes, the professional athletes, that all of us have been dealing with COVID, also takes a special person to continue to be able to go out and stay focused. Because I don't have to tell you this, the game was taken away from him. It was gone. Didn't think there was going to be a season.
Wasn't going to happen.
But as we watch this Ohio State team prepare and Justin prepare, they continue to look like they hadn't missed a beat. So there's a mentality, a mental toughness that's there with Justin, but also that permeates throughout that program at Ohio State, because they were in some very tough situations this year, but they were able to help answer the bell. And it helps when your starting quarterback, arguably your best player on the team, is delivering the same message that your head coach is delivering from the front of the room.
Ohio State as a team received criticism for being part of the Big Ten championship game. Wasn't any of their doing. They simply weren't able to play because of some COVID issues. Then they were granted that waiver into the Big Ten championship game. And let's be honest, Justin Fields did not play well against Northwestern, and he was the first guy to admit it. And so then you head into the college football playoff semifinal against Clemson, and the world is picking the Tigers.
Yes.
Everybody believes that Trevor Lawrence, this is going to be his swan song. He's going to win this game, set up another matchup with Alabama, be the number one pick. He is outshined in that game by a long shot by Justin Fields, coming off a subpar performance and all the questions about Fields and whether he could do it in the postseason, and the numbers were crazy. I know this workout is important, but if I'm a scout and I watched that game against Clemson knowing what I knew about the background heading into that game, that tells me pretty much everything I need to know about Justin Fields, the person.
And let's remember, that background goes back to high school. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields have been competing against each other to be that number one quarterback since coming out of high school. That has never stopped. And that comparison doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon because they're both going to be very highly picked at the quarterback spot, most likely Lawrence going at number one. But Justin could easily be the number 3 quarterback taken, if not the number 2 quarterback coming into this situation. For me, I hope he's number 3. That means he's going to the 49ers and not the Jets, where I know that there is a proven system that will be able to tap into his athleticism and his quarterback ability that's going to make him the best quarterback that he possibly can be.
Yeah, Rob Rang does project that Lawrence will go first to Jacksonville, and Urban Meyer hinted earlier this week that that is the direction the Jaguars are leaning. No surprise there. Zach Wilson, the quarterback out of BYU, came on late this year. You see Trey Lance from North Dakota State, a guy whose skill set is somewhat similar to Justin Fields, projected by Rob as the number 3 pick. You mentioned San Francisco. That's where the 49ers are, a situation where he had some injuries and some issues last year, but a pretty nice nucleus, a young head coach, a starter in Garoppolo who is likely going to be the opening day guy there next year, and you can learn. I understand that Rob is projecting Lance there, but I kind of side with you. I think the 49ers, if you look at body of work and you consider where you're coming from and the competition level that you've dealt with over the past couple of years, I think Justin Fields may check an additional box in comparison to Trey Lance.
There's a quarterback from Michigan State that was drafted by the Washington football team, right? You might know him. Pretty good guy now in Minnesota. And I said to Coach DiNardo, and they said, well, why did they draft him? They just took Robert Griffin III. Why would they go with Kirk Cousins at this spot? And I looked at him, I said, he's getting ready to make a bunch of money because I know what that system can do. I know what the coaching style can do. And who was happened to be around there? Kyle Shanahan happened to be there at that time. And I'm telling you, when you look at just the upside that Justin has, because I've said it all year that he still hasn't gotten there. Wherein when you talk about Trevor Lawrence, he's there. He's an unbelievable quarterback, but he's there. Justin still has a ways that he can go and still grow, and that's not a knock. That's just where he is, and you see him coming up with some big time throws. And you put him in a situation where he's going to be able to utilize his legs along with his arm, and you're talking about a guy that can play this game a long time.
I don't know. That Shanahan family, they've never had any luck with quarterbacks being any good at certain places and certain generations of that family, have they?
They haven't been very good, but we'll find out how good they're going to be with him.
All right, much more from Joshua Perry, again, down on the field, continuing to follow this lengthy Justin Fields workout, Joshua.
Yeah, guys, and you can just feel the confidence right now from Justin Fields. And you watch the last handful of deep balls that he's thrown, they've all been on point. And you can see the reaction from the scouts. Their eyes are getting big. You can hear the gasps. You can't really see the smiles because everybody's masked up. But he's getting a reaction out here, and you could tell it's overwhelmingly positive. Talking to one scout, he said, you could tell Justin's having a good day because only one of the balls that was on the ground was his fault.
Joshua, do you get the sense that this is sending a message? We continue to see deep ball after deep ball. Is this Fields? Is this his representation? Is this a setup to prove to these scouts that Fields can throw the deep ball as well, if not better, than any other quarterback in this draft?
It has to be. I mean, it's his script. They came up with the route combinations that they thought were going to be the best to showcase, and they decided that they wanted to go deep. And it hasn't just been from the pocket. He's dropped from under center. He's rolled out. He's thrown one of these deep balls off of his back foot. I mean, he's shown the full array of passes and different ways that you can make the passes, and he's lived overall good doing it. So definitely an intentional thing that he's done, and I think it's really paying off for him.
Yeah, and I also think, Joshua, as we see a throw there to a tight end, you can't forget about the fact that Justin Fields is quickly going from passes to running backs out of the backfield, passes to wide receivers, passes to tight ends, and obviously you're talking about a different level of speed between those wide receivers and tight ends. So he is also showing, is he not here, his ability to quickly gauge in his mind how quickly that ball needs to come out or if he needs to take an extra beat on some of these throws.
You're absolutely right, and that's how a game goes. You know, you never know who the ball is going to go to. It's all predicated off of the offensive set you have and how the defense aligns to it. So his ability to show that he's going to throw to a wide receiver and then go to a tight end, back to a wide receiver, and then throw it to Trey Sermon out of the backfield here. If he's in the pocket on the rollout like we just saw right there, deep ball, just hit it, and you can hear that reaction. It's exactly what's going on here. Everybody's super excited because of Justin Fields' ability to make plays, and he's showing it right now.
Joshua, I don't know if you could hear Howard during your last comments there, but he couldn't even hold himself back. He had to say, what was it? That's the throw,
That's
Howard?
The throw.
What do you mean by that?
That's
Just
exactly
being able
what it
to
is.
flip the hips. Again, rolling and weighing. That's all arm strength. And that's why those guys are so excited. That's why we heard the crowd roar. Because they understand just how powerful and how great that throw has to be. He's rolling right now. You see the confidence in him. He's got the sweat going. He's feeling good about himself right now.
And he should be after that throw. I think everybody right now is pretty impressed. There's Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons. As of now, the Falcons have the number 4 overall pick. Now, they are not projected right now to be interested in a quarterback at number 4, but you never know. A workout like this, perhaps Rob Rang is correct, and you have the 3 guys going 1, 2, 3 in Lawrence, Wilson, and Lance, and you're the Falcons sitting there at number 4, and you see what you see today, and you think to yourself, maybe we don't lean toward a linebacker like Micah Parsons. Maybe Justin Fields is a guy who we like at that spot.
Back at home, right? He could be a franchise. I mean, a lot of conversations go on, right? And that's one of the things when you talk about going to a workout, when you talk about having an opportunity to draft an elite quarterback, a lot of things have to go into the conversation in those buildings. And it's an important conversation that has to be had. But when he comes out and does this and has this type of performance, you know, that's what you want. You want people to start thinking, are we sure we're locked in on our guy, or do we need to go get this guy?
And listen, specifically, if you're Arthur Smith and the Falcons at number 4, you know, Matt Ryan's not a young man anymore. I mean, he's been in the league for quite some time. I'm not even sure if they have a designated depth chart right now behind him at 2, 3, 4. Now, we're not taking anything away from Micah Parsons, who I also think is a generational talent at linebacker, as it looks like Justin Fields has just wrapped up that workout. And if that's the end, Howard, he did an awfully impressive job.
Yeah, really good job. He was prepared. Obviously, he'd been training for this. So this is what it comes down to.
All right, so your final thoughts on that workout, what he showed and what he answered, if there were questions that he had to answer.
I think he had an unbelievable workout. I've said that. You talk about his ability to want to compete. You mentioned him stumbling on the drill and then coming back when he was running the 40, having a smile on his face. Joshua mentioned everything that you want to feel from a quarterback. He was never too high, too low. He was even keeled. This is what he expected to go out and do. There's some things that he may have wanted to do better, but at the end of the day, he's going to walk away from this, and I'm sure when he starts to do interviews, he's going to be very happy about his performance today.
Justin Fields just wrapped up his individual quarterback workout at Ohio State Pro Day, and by all accounts, it wasn't simply good. It was outstanding, and perhaps there was one throw that defined this workout more than any other. It made Howard Griffith get out of his chair. Justin Fields, have a day.